Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Veterinary Business Podcast, your ultimate resource for developing a successful veterinary practice and career. I'm Naren Arulrajah, the founder of the Veterinary Business Podcast and one of the co-hosts. On this podcast, we bring you insights and expertise from industry-leading doctors, experts, and thought leaders. We cover a wide range of topics, including practice management, marketing strategies, leadership development, HR best practices, and much more. Whether you are a practicing veterinarian, a practice owner, practice manager, or a student studying to be a veterinarian, this podcast is tailored to help you navigate the unique challenges and opportunities in the business of veterinary medicine. Every listener to this podcast is welcome to visit the veterinarybussiness.com for additional resources and tools to support your growth. And remember not to forget to subscribe to us either on iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify. And this way we are downloaded automatically to your device every single week. Today, I have an amazing guest and I have an amazing topic. The topic is creating a veterinary-specific financial plan. And my guest is Dr. Meredith Jones, who is both a veterinarian and a financial planner with SLP Wealth. Plus, she's a certified student loan professional and co-founder of the Veterinary Financial Summit. I'm sure many of you know about the Veterinary Financial Summit. So I'm super excited to have you here with me, Meredith. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I think this is a wonderful topic because unfortunately, by the time somebody graduates, vet school, they have six-figure loan they have to pay back, right? They have to support their lives, they have to support their kids, their, personal needs, and possibly even practice, right? Maybe they bought a practice, maybe they are building a practice. Now, on top of that, they have to support this loan that's hanging over them. So this idea of like how to manage money, how to create a financial plan, I think is an awesome topic because, we need money, whether we like it or not, to have a good life. We need money to go on that vacation. We need money to even take a break, right? Like, let's say you don't want to work for 6 months or 3 weeks. Hey, you need funds. So the idea of like proactively working on money, proactively working on finances, I think is a great topic. So I'm so glad I have somebody who is not only an expert when it comes to the financial side, but also an expert because you are one of the people we are talking to today. You are a veterinarian. So you kind of see it from every angle. You understand it. You understand the struggles. You understand the challenges. You understand the needs. So let's jump in. So before we get started, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Like, who are you? How did you get into vet medicine in the first place? And then finally, how did you start helping veterinary practice owners with their finances as a financial planner?
Sure. So as far as getting into veterinary medicine, I was one of those vets who I wanted to be a veterinarian from the time I was 10 years old. And so we just...
I have a niece who might join you there. She wants to be a veterinarian and she's 9. Anyways.
Yeah, common story, right? Yeah, and so we had a lot of dogs when I was growing up, and I just became, as I got older, just really interested in biology and medicine, and decided to become a veterinarian. And so I graduated from NC State back in 2008, and did a small animal rotating internship, and worked in emergency medicine for a long time, like over 12 years, and I became a really big money nerd while I was paying off my student debt. And so over the last several years, I've become involved in various financial projects in the veterinary space. And so I started the Debt Free Vets Facebook group, it started as a small group. Now it has 16,000 vets and vet students in it. And started, as you mentioned, the Veterinary Financial Summit along with a colleague, and had the opportunity to start speaking at various conferences and speaking to students, and co-host the Veterinary Financial podcast as well. But yeah, I started speaking, doing some financial coaching because I took a course on that and realized that I wanted to be able to help veterinarians in a more comprehensive way. And I was kind of at a crossroads in my career where I was deciding what was the next chapter of my career going to look like. And so I completed some additional coursework and decided to take this opportunity to help veterinarians in a different way that I'm really passionate about. And so now I work with Student Loan Planner as a student loan consultant, and then with SLP Wealth as well as a financial planner focusing on veterinarians.
That's awesome. Um, I'm just curious. You said you became a financial nerd, right? Trying to pay off your student debt. Talk more about this. What did this nerd do? That's most people don't like just kind of just a segue, but just curious.
Yeah, so I started listening to a ton of financial podcasts and started reading books about personal finance. And initially, it was to try to figure out what my own plan was going to be for paying off my student debt. And then I just got more and more interested in it. I also like looking back because once in a while I'll get a question like, what could have actually sparked that, initially. I did take a personal finance course back in undergrad, and I think that might have been just a little bit of background that I decided to, um, end up, building on and reading more as I had financial problems to solve for myself.
Yeah. So let's kind of take a step back. Now you are helping others as a coach, as a consultant. Like, what do you see? Like, what are people trying to accomplish with regards to their finance? Is it just getting rid of debt? Is it like what, like if you were to group the people you work with and you see what are the
Mhm.
three things, one thing or two things that you kind of keep seeing again and again?
Yeah, yeah. So definitely student debt is a really big pain point in the profession. And so there are some folks I meet with who are just looking for a student loan plan and just looking for that problem, having a clear strategy for their student debt. And so that's part of my job is to help them and help solve that problem. But then from a more comprehensive perspective with financial planning, we get a lot of questions about investing, and a lot of folks are confused and want to either just get started with a plan with investing in retirement savings, or they are looking to optimize their strategy. And I mean, it's definitely not something that veterinarians learn about in school, and so but student debt and investing, those are the top concerns and interests.
Got it. Got it. Um, Now you are a veterinarian. Tell me, do veterinarians need a financial plan? You know, what are your thoughts, and what would you tell other veterinarians you meet?
Mhm. Yeah, so veterinarians absolutely do need a financial plan. However they decide to come up with that plan, whether they decide that they're going to do it themselves or work with a professional to help with their finances. And so the idea with a financial plan is really designing it around your life goals and what's most important to them. And being intentional with their finances and having a plan, it can help them reach their life goals more efficiently, and with less stress, and it can help them avoid mistakes that they might otherwise make without realizing it. Um, and what I see with the vets that I work with is that really a lot of them want to be able to open up options, for their career and their lives. And so, and being able to navigate transitions in their careers and their lives, whether it's a move, whether it's starting a family, whether it's going from being on the floor as a clinician to a non-clinical role. They want to set themselves up for success and set themselves up for a more secure future and being able to make those decisions when they choose to.
That's wonderful. Now let's shift gears a bit. Let's say somebody is trying to manage their personal finances, but they also have decided to become a practice owner. They
Hmm.
want to do their own thing, right? Um,
Yeah.
what would you tell them as they're starting out on this dual path, right? Dual journey, because both require money and both require planning around money. Because A lot of startup practices don't make a lot of profit when they start out, right? They're probably spending more than they can make. So it's all about managing that process and managing your money and managing what's on your bank account. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so thoughts on that. I mean, I go back to the very beginning of the financial journey when I start to think about this, because a lot of veterinarians when they're first planning their careers, I mean, certainly the first few years that you're out, you're going to be focused on just becoming the best veterinarian that you can possibly be, those first few years. But then people start to look at practice ownership. And so with starting out with your financial journey, you want to make sure that first of all you've got the foundation in place. So making sure that you've got your emergency savings set aside. So 3 months of expenses, for example. Some people save more than that, and then starting to contribute to retirement. So the minimum would be contributing at least up to the employer match, like when you're first getting started as a new grad, and then tracking your expenses. Not something that you have to do every week or every month or anything like that, but having some idea of what your expenses are and what they look like. Because if you don't know how much is coming in versus how much you're spending, then you don't really have the foundation to be able to save for a practice or be able to make sure that you're gonna get approved for a loan, for example. And the other thing I'll throw in too is just making sure that you've got a plan for your student loans so that they're not overwhelming to you, so they're not a barrier, which is one of the things that I like helping with the most. And so, for folks who want to become practice owners, really a lot of them end up either because of how much student debt they have, because it might be the best plan for them in general, or strategically actually using the income-driven repayment plans where you're paying kind of a minimum amount on your loans for a 20 to 25 year time frame, and then getting the rest of it forgiven. So they're using those plans to keep their payment low so that they have more extra cash available to save for starting a practice, or to plan, even if they don't have to make a big down payment on a practice, to be able to plan for that ramping up of income when you first start a practice.
Absolutely. That makes total sense. Can you talk about some different investment ideas or strategies for veterinarians considering their unique situation and long-term careers?
Yeah. So we talk a lot about a three bucket strategy. So and so a couple of those are retirement accounts, and one of them is a non-retirement investment account. And so we talk about having your pre-tax retirement account. So that's like a 401k. Those folks who are in academia might have a 403b instead. They work very similarly. So those are your pre-tax retirement accounts. Actually, contributing to those retirement accounts also reduces your taxes that you're paying today, and then also reduces, if you're on an income-driven repayment plan for your student debt, it actually reduces the required payment for your student debt as well. So useful in a few different ways. And then we also talk about, beyond that, having some post-tax retirement accounts as well. So you've got your accounts that, like your 401k, ultimately when you retire, you're going to have to pay taxes on that. But then if you have money that goes into a Roth IRA as a post-tax account, you've already paid tax on it. And then when you pull that money out in retirement, you don't have to pay taxes on that money or any of the gains, the earnings on that money either. So we talk about that as our second bucket. And then the third bucket is a brokerage account, so like a non-retirement investment account. And so some folks are using that type of account to save for the tax bond, the tax bill that's due at the end of student loan forgiveness, in that at that 20 to 25 year mark. But then I also see more and more veterinarians who are able to save into those accounts for goals that are, say, 10 years or more out. or if they're looking at perhaps retiring early, because if you don't want to lock up all of your money in retirement accounts, if you're retiring early, you want to have some money that you're able to use at any point.
Got it. Got it. Um, Now, veterinarians' income can vary. Therefore, what are any strategies that you recommend to veterinarians when they are setting goals, for example, specifically retirement savings goals?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, in that case, let's actually, because I get a lot of questions about variable income and how to manage it. Let's broaden it to just savings in general, because both short-term and long-term savings, I think this applies to. So as far as retirement goes, though, I mean, the savings rate, so the percentage of income that you're saving, the higher that percentage is, that's going to put you on track for early retirement. So the more that you're saving from your income, the greater chance you're going to have to retire early. Of course, that's for people who want to retire early. Not everybody is interested in that, and that's okay. But that's going to be one component of this. And then the other thing is with variable income. So, okay, so a lot of veterinarians may be on production pay. They may get a production check every month or every quarter, and they may not even get a production check every month or every quarter, depending on what business looks like at different times of the year. And so commonly I'm talking with clients about, and I'm helping them with, for example, averaging out their income and their expenses over a quarter, because over a quarter, that's going to give you a better time frame. So like a quarter or going back 6 months, it's going to give you a better idea of what your spending is really like, and then how much up versus down are you from month to month, quarter to quarter, and then figuring out, okay, how much excess savings do you have to work with to allocate to various financial goals that you have. And the thing is, I mean, when I talk through that, it sounds like it's boring, but you can actually just connect your accounts to an app like Monarch Money, for example, and it will tabulate all this stuff for you. So it's not something where you're having to go line by line and look at all of your spending and categorize it and that sort of thing. There's ways of doing that without having to manually do a whole lot. But that's what we're often looking at is just trying to average it out by quarter so that we can then say, okay, well, this is what your average is, and then be able to allocate it to financial goals from there.
Perfect. Perfect. If I'm a new veterinarian, I'm assuming a lot of the people you serve are new veterinarians, and let's say a
Mhm.
burden with student loans. Any big ideas, big strategies that you would suggest in terms of controlling or managing those loans and those payments?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So there are a lot of different repayment plans for student loans, but there's really only two main strategies for paying off your student debt. So you're either going to pay them off as soon as possible. So that's usually for people who have low debt to income ratios. So meaning if your debt to income ratio is less than something like 1.25 to 1, then you're probably looking at paying off that debt as soon as possible. If it's higher than that, then you're probably looking at least considering an income-driven plan. And so the vast majority of new grads or recent grads are going to be in that category where they're going to have a higher debt to income ratio. And a lot of veterinarians actually have debt to income ratios that are more like two to one or 3 to 1, especially when they first graduate. And so the idea with an income driven plan is you're paying based on your income. So it actually doesn't have anything to do with how much money you owe. You're actually just making the payment based on your income and your family size. And you're paying the minimum amount that the government tells you have to make as a payment. And going for forgiveness with the rest of it. And so for a lot of veterinarians, what happens is, well, first of all, it might actually be it sounds crazy, but it might actually be less expensive to use an income-driven repayment plan in some cases than to pay off the debt in full because of the different rules and the different ways that the repayment plans work. And it's definitely very confusing. And that's why I suggest always either running your numbers in a calculator if you want to try to do it yourself, or ideally setting up a consultation with a student loan professional so that they can run your numbers, because we commonly make recommendations that save people 5 or 6 figures on their student debt.
Wow.
Especially if they're married, it can actually really, really compound the amount that we save people.
I mean, I would just talk to you just for that reason alone. I mean, 5, 6 figures is like tens of thousands to 100,000 plus, right? So that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
As you bring this to the close, I do have one last question that I want to ask you.
Mhm.
Would you outline primary elements of a veterinary-specific financial plan for listeners interested in planning their finances within the veterinary profession?
Sure, absolutely. And so some of these, certainly when we're talking about elements of a financial plan, some of these are going to overlap with the elements of a financial plan for anyone. Things like cash flow or budgeting, debt management, including student debt, and then for folks who have consumer debt like credit card debt, including that as well. Investing in retirement planning, certainly an element that we focus on a lot. Insurance, tax planning, estate planning, those are things that we touch on in our discussions as well. On the veterinary specific side, I think it's really helpful to work with someone who is familiar with the veterinary profession for a few reasons. One is because they're going to be a financial planner who's familiar with veterinarians is going to be more familiar with the career trajectory of different veterinarians. And so, and being able to help them navigate those transitions with confidence, because like if you think about a lot of emergency veterinarians, they end up making a transition into being a general practitioner, for example, or making a transition into becoming a relief vet and being a self-employed vet. There are a lot of folks who are making transitions from emergency practice or general practice into a non-clinical role. So helping to navigate those transitions. And I think it's helpful to, like we talked about, be able to plan around that irregular income that the majority of veterinarians are working with, and also understanding the different compensation structures in the veterinary profession and the pros and cons of those.
Thank you so much. If somebody wants to kind of follow you or get in touch with you, how can they go about doing that?
Sure. So you can feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. You can also go to slpwealth.com if you'd like to check out what we offer for financial planning. And then you also had mentioned the Veterinary Financial Summit as well. So feel free to check us out there.
Thank you so much. We're going to include all of these along with the show notes. So go to the website, veterinarybusinessinstitute.com, and find this podcast, and you will get all the links that and all the different ways you can reach Meredith. Of course, we're going to include the podcast, include summaries of the podcast. So if you want to share it, please do that also from the website. So I want to take a minute to thank you, Dr. Meredith Jones, for joining us today and talking to us about creating a veterinarian-specific financial plan. I personally appreciate it very much, and I know everyone listening will appreciate you and appreciate you for your knowledge and wisdom and what you're doing to help veterinarians. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I also want to take a moment to thank our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you. We cannot do what we do without you. So if you like the podcast, share it with your colleagues and friends on social media. Also, please don't forget to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews will help other doctors and practice owners find us. Till we meet again next time, keep striving for excellence and making a positive impact in the lives of your patients and pet parents. Wishing all of you an amazing week ahead.